Hello everyone. In this video, I'm going to share 10 unique ways that I use ChatGPT, which I think will be beneficial for others as well. And in the spirit of the video, I'm just going to prompt this to ChatGPT to see what it comes up with. ChatGPT obviously knows how I have been using it. So based on how I've been using you, ChatGPT, can you tell me 10 unique ways which a lot of people may not know about and which are quite effective if they also start using those ways? The reason why I'm doing this is to explain how I would go about ideating something like a video topic, because this is one of the applications that you could use ChatGPT for. It's good at recognizing the kinds of things that you've been doing in the past. So absolutely, based on your patterns, here are 10 unique and effective ways. And of course, they have to be unique and effective. The reason why I mentioned that in the prompt is because some ways could be unique to me, but they may not be effective for others. So the first thing, repurposing business operations into SOPs. Now, a lot of tools and softwares are available which allow you to create SOPs. So what I do is I create a workflow. Like for example, I have a coffee shop, so drink recipes, barista routines for my agency, maybe the client onboarding. And I ask ChatGPT to create these clear step-by-step SOPs and just keep documenting all of that in one place. Earlier, I feel everyone knew the power of SOPs, but there was this friction in actually starting to document everything because you had to basically type everything out from scratch. But now you could just hold your phone, maybe make a voice note. This is what I'm doing. This is how I'm going to make this drink. This is how I'm going to onboard a client. Use my input with your knowledge database and make a clear SOP. So now there is no excuse to not having a SOP for your business. And I think that's the biggest win for a business if they can have SOPs. It also gives more independence and freedom for the person running the business, because once they have SOPs, they can automate it or they can delegate it, and they themselves can get freedom from spending a lot of that time and energy into the business to focusing on things that matter more. So that's the first way. Second, using ChatGPT as a Kanban preprocessor. Right? It's a fancy term, but basically, instead of dumping all tasks into a tool, you first unbundle the checklists and projects here before moving them. So what I do is essentially I was tracking all my projects into Notion, ClickUp, and these project management softwares. But now all of those projects are actually just projects in my ChatGPT. I honestly actually have reduced using all of these project management tools. And I'm trying to even use ChatGPT as a Google Docs kind of alternative, because we hardly create docs by ourselves these days since everything is created with AI. This adds clarity before committing to a system, because let's say, for example, if you decide that this is my project, this is my subtasks, and these are the checklists, and then you start creating everything on ClickUp, there is a curve to it. Before that, you could just put it in ChatGPT and ask ChatGPT if it's the right thing, eliminate things that you don't need, go through that, and then go into any of the other tools that you use. Right? Number three, acting as a video content producer assistant. Now, I'm sure I'm not the only one, but one of the interesting ways that I've been doing this is also using ChatGPT, not just to create content ideas and scripts and thumbnails, but also giving it a lot of input to get feedback, whether it's from my YouTube analytics, whether it's from the previous thumbnails that have worked well. I think past data is the most powerful thing that you have with you. So I've learned this as a growth marketeer over the past decade, that if you have past data, just use that to create anything new. Now, most people would go into ChatGPT and just type, give me video ideas for this, write a script for this. Instead of that, I start off by saying, this is the past data from either my channel or someone else's channel that has worked really well. I want you to look at this and then identify ways that we can create something similar with a different angle. And that's something that works really well. One of the videos on my YouTube channel crossed 200,000 views. On my personal finance YouTube channel was basically based on the idea that these kind of topics work in the US market, and I want to create something in the Indian market, because I do feel that this is a true concept. Of course, I had the idea, but not the exact title, thumbnail, script, and then ChatGPT can come up with that. Now, to be very honest, I don't follow the script all the time that ChatGPT gives, but the titles and thumbnails are pretty solid. So I would say create 5 titles, 5 thumbnails, rank them. And I think that's a very powerful prompt. ChatGPT is very good at knowing the good ideas that it suggests and the bad ideas it suggests. So if you give 5 options of titles and thumbnails and then say rank them, it's going to rank its own titles and thumbnails. So just as an example, I'll say rank these 10 ways that you have listed. What I'm saying is you generated these 10 ways. Which ones of these are better? So I can then shortlist. So rank one, repurposing business ops into SOPs. Super good. Running multi-business strategy in one brain. We'll come to that. Turning life experiments into learning. So it's now ranked its own ideas. And this is something that you could say, and then you could go back again, take only the top 5 ideas and create 5 more that rank at the same level. So now you're just eliminating the worst ideas and just keeping the best ideas. The ChatGPT itself ranks its own ideas, which is great. So now it's come up with 5 of the ideas that were already good, and then 5 of the ideas that are better than the other 5 that it generated, right? So this is how I improvise on its own input. It can go and improvise on its own input. We're going to go back to the original list first. We've discussed this. Number 4, startup and product branding refinement. So in the past, we used to need like brand consultants. What I do is, if I have a simple logo, a brand name, a description, I would go back to ChatGPT and just create the mission, vision, value, and all of that. There's a lot of drama around brand building. I just try to reduce that drama, focus on the MVP, focus on lean experimentation, right? But then there's the 5th one, which is turning life experiments into structured learning. So whatever I've learned, what I do is I get into a reflection mode with ChatGPT. And there's one way that I do this, which is very interesting, where I go on a morning walk and I just tell ChatGPT, whatever I'm going to say now, you don't have to give me your ideas and thoughts. Just keep listening to me and say, okay. And at the end of the walk, I'll ask ChatGPT, whatever I told you in the last 20 minutes, usually it's a 20-minute walk. Whatever I told you in the last 20 minutes, now you summarize everything and then give me ideas on, what's the next step? How can we make this better, right? Number 6, yes, languages. This is specifically for me. For example, I have a coffee shop in Vietnam. So whatever SOPs I create, I also create them in Vietnamese, document them in multiple languages. That's a good one. Good, easy use case. Running multi-business strategy in one brain. So essentially, ChatGPT is now my second brain. I don't have a second brain tracking mechanism on Notion anymore. Just use ChatGPT for that. So as you have seen, there are different folders, and basically every folder is a different person. It's like a different brain, because see, one person who's running a cafe, one person who's running a digital agency, one person who's running a YouTube channel. I cannot have all of these brains in one. I do, but you cannot manage the bandwidth accordingly. Every brain here is basically one different kind of person who knows a different kind of skill. And when I go into that folder, I take the role of that person. That's how I imagine myself, like stepping into the shoes of that person, right? Number 8, minimizing tool creep through smart delegation. Now, a lot of things that I used to do with tools, I actually try to do within the custom GPTs. This is probably not the exact point that it's trying to make, but that's what I usually do. The hybrid personal finance assistant is very useful, because oftentimes we have to pay invoices, calculations of GST, TDS, this and that. All of that is done by the finance assistant. I have a simple index investing portfolio where I want to rebalance from time to time. And when I rebalance, let's say once in 3 months, 6 months, ChatGPT just tells me how much amount to move where, so that it matches my portfolio allocation, at least my target portfolio allocation that I want to achieve. And number 10 is the contextual use. This was basically an example of this. Based on how I've been using you, can you tell me 10 unique ways, right? Interesting prompt, works really well. Now, it ranked a few of those ideas as not that great, like bilingual vocalization. It's good for me, maybe not for everyone else. So then it came up with some new ideas. Let's see those new ideas as well. Create reusable micro templates. You can always tap into ChatGPT for that and say, hey, let's reuse this template that we had before, but change the name of the client to this, change change the service to this, maybe create invoices and all of that kind of stuff. AI-led weekly planning and prioritization. So what I do is I take my task list, which is basically on TickTick, and then I copy paste. I take a screenshot of that, put it in ChatGPT and say, these are all the tasks I have on my plate for this week. Let's prioritize them. Let's categorize them into deep work, shallow work, so forth. Categorize them into things that I should do in the morning, should do in the afternoon, I should do in the evening. So that's pretty useful. And I think that's definitely one of the new ideas that's better than one of the ones that it would have replaced. And so those are good ways that it has come up with. If you've been using ChatGPT for a while, I think you can try this prompt as well. And then you can see how to improve upon that, right? So based on these and what's worked and useful, suggest 10 new ways that I may not have been using you. So pattern recognition, right? So there's data. It has a lot of data of how I have been using it. But now let's give it back to ChatGPT and let it create ideas about how I should be using it. So for example, freedom calendar design. Create a system to reverse plan weeks based on freedom blocks. You define your ideal week and I turn it into recurring time blocks. A client email reply generator with tone matching, revenue scenario builder, input your current revenue stream, and GPT helps stimulate worst best expected monthly income. That's very nice. YouTube comment response assistant, a personal knowledge wiki builder. That's a nice one. Outreach personalization engine, visual slide prompting for presentations. I usually create presentations with Manus AI, Canva, Gamma. So maybe not going to use ChatGPT for that. I've not found it specifically great when it comes to the design, but yeah, it's a good idea. Anyway, real-time decision helper, pros and cons. Should I move out of hometown now? What are the pros and cons? That's a nice one. Delegation planner, audience pain point miner, especially good for YouTube. These are good ideas. One more idea that I used ChatGPT for, which it missed, was a 80-20 principle assistant. So anything that I do, I ask, now let's do only the top 20%, identify the top 20% that's going to get 80% of the results for this project, which I haven't even started. And ChatGPT already tells me that these are the things that you should focus on this project to get 80% of the results with 20% of the efforts. So that's an interesting one as well. Those are the ways, interesting ways that I've been using ChatGPT, and I wanted to share in this video. If you found this useful, or if you want me to expand on any of these particular points, let me know in the comments and I'll be happy to make more videos on this. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.